Okay, so let's start with the next topic. Like in the same topic, now we have to see wax as a pattern material. Wax as a pattern material. Okay, so all of you might have used wax candles in your homes, right? At some point of time, definitely you might have used the wax candles. You might have seen that when the wax is hot, it is very soft. It's very easy to change the shape of the wax. It's very easy to change the shape of the wax. This is one of the reasons why wax was developed as a pattern material, because it is very easy to change the shape. And also, after changing the shape, if you have made a very complicated casting, if you have made a very complicated pattern, it will be difficult to remove the pattern, right? But in case of wax pattern, since they are not removed in the solid state, it is easy to remove them. So that adds to the advantage of using wax pattern. So overall, wax pattern is giving us two advantages. One is, just with the help of very small forces, you can make very complicated shapes. And the other one is, the removal of pattern is very easy since it is removed in the liquid state. And also you might have seen the surface of the wax candle. How is the surface of the wax candle? The surface of the wax candle is very smooth, right? If the surface of the pattern material is smooth, the surface of the cavity will be smooth. And if the surface of the cavity is smooth, the surface of the final casting will be smooth. Hence, by using wax pattern, we will be getting very good surface finish. Okay, because of these three reasons, wax patterns are used as a pattern materials. That is, wax is used as a pattern material. Okay, very soft, hence easy to shape. Removed from mold. These are removed from mold in liquid state. Hence easy removal. And the third one is, give very good surface finish. So these are the 3 points because of which the wax is used as a pattern material. Please copy these points. Explain point 2. Sort of by taking two pattern allowances. Which two pattern allowance? You will tell me. I told that the wax is removed in liquid state, right? Since wax pattern is removed in liquid state, they are not going to damage the mold wall. Their removal is easy. They are not going to damage the mold wall, right? So that is also one advantage of the wax pattern. Which two pattern allowances are not needed in case of wax pattern? Can you tell me? This was covered in the beginning of the class. Achha, how they are removed in liquid state? Sort of, once you have made the mold, entire mold will be heated. Okay, when you heat the mold, the wax will turn into liquid, and then it will be removed. This will be more clear when we see the investment casting. Okay. Which two allowances are not required in wax pattern? The draft allowance and the wrapping allowance. In the draft allowance and in the wrapping allowance, we don't need to give, like in wax pattern, we don't need to give the draft allowance and the wrapping allowance. That is the shake allowance. Okay. So these are the properties of wax pattern material. The fifth one is mercury pattern. Okay, what could be the disadvantages of using mercury as a pattern material? Out of all the properties that we have seen, mercury will not satisfy which properties? It is costly. Very good. Kumar is saying temperature. Yeah, that is also one point. Mercury is in the liquid state at room temperature. Hence, if we want to use mercury as a pattern material, we'll first have to freeze the mercury. Then only we can use the mercury. Any other reason? Okay, I'll give you one real life example. Childhood, I had gone to a doctor. Okay. Yeah, Vishesh. They are toxic. So I'll complete the example. The doctor had given a thermometer to a kid. The kid beat the thermometer too much and the thermometer broke off. The doctor gave a tight slap to the kid. It was not because the kid broke the thermometer. It was because the doctor was scared that the kid will get poisoned because of the mercury. Mercury is highly toxic and it is poisonous in nature. So that is also one of the disadvantage. And also the density of mercury is very high. The density of mercury is very high. So mercury is toxic in nature. Mercury's density is high. Mercury is costlier. So these are the main three disadvantages. Then also we are using mercury as a pattern material. What could be the reason for that? If you might have seen mercury, no sorrow. Even in low temperature regions, that low temperature will not be sufficient. It requires very less temperature. If you might have seen the mercury, you might have seen its surface is very smooth. Its surface is very smooth. Just if you have not seen, go to your home, ask your mom to give you a thermometer, break it. Okay, then check the surface of the mercury. Okay, then after that what happens, I don't take the responsibility, but for checking the surface finish we can check that. Okay, so first point is mercury is having following disadvantages. It is poisonous in nature, it is having high density, it is costly, and the fourth one is it requires freezing. So see, it is poisonous in nature, it is having high density, it is having costly, it requires freezing. Even then we are using it for casting. Even then we are using it as a pattern material. The reason is it is giving us very good surface finish. So if you want to produce a component, a very small component, in which you don't want to give any machining allowance, you want to produce a component with very good surface finish, you'll be going for mercury pattern. So it is used for, there's only one point, making small components with very good surface finish, without any machining. It is used for making small components with very good surface finish without any machining. Okay, whenever we are using very strange things, poisonous, high density, costly, requires freezing, the main application for this is space application. Whenever you are using strange components, they are used for space application. This is used for space application. Okay, so with this we complete the pattern materials. So with this the first step is over. The first step, that was pattern making, is over. The second step is mold making. Okay, so in mold, when we were making mold in the video, you might have seen that he was using a sand called as molding sand. So what is a molding sand? What is present inside a molding sand? How do we make the molding sand? Is it our normal sand? The answer is no. The molding sand is made by a combination of three things. First is the silica sand, that is the normal sand. Then we have the binder, and the third one is some agent to initiate the bond formation. The maximum constituent will be the silica sand. For sticking the silica sand, we need to use some binder, and along with the binder, we need to have something to initiate the bond formation. Okay, so on basis of this, we have different kinds of sands. First, let us see the constituents of sand. First one is green sand mold. So what is a green sand mold? We have different kinds of molding sands. One is green sand. A green sand is a sand in which we have silica sand plus silica sand plus clay plus water. Silica sand is generally 75%. Silica sand is generally 75%. Clay is nearly 20%. And water is, this is 15 to 20%. 6 to 8%. Water is 6 to 8%. So these are the main constituents of a green sand mold. Green sand mold. Once the green sand mold has formed, sometimes what we do is we heat the green sand mold. And when we heat the green sand mold, whatever the water was present in the green sand mold, that water evaporates. So there is no water, right? So the molding sand is now dry. So it will be called as dry sand mold. It will be called as dry sand mold. So the second is dry sand mold, and the green sand mold is heated. The water evaporates. The sand is called as dry sand, and the sand is called as dry sand. When the green sand mold is heated, the water evaporates and the sand is called as dry sand. Sir, why low moisture absorption is required in pattern as it does not affect the hardness and shape of the mold? Danish, that time I had explained, if the pattern absorbs the water, it will get swollen up. Its size will change. And if its size changes, the size of the cavity will change. That's why low moisture absorption is required in the pattern. Okay? And the third one is loam sand mold. Yeah, Sunil. The binder is clay and water is used for the initiation of bond formation. The main binder is the clay. Okay? Loam sand mold. In green sand mold and dry sand mold, if we have clay nearly 50%, then it is called as loam sand mold. So, with nearly 50% clay, is called as loam sand mold. Okay, so these are the different types of molding sand. So you can see here the main constituents are water, clay and the sand. Water, clay and sand. Along with this, sometimes we add some additives. Like these three are the main constituents. Along with that, we add 2% of few components. What is the purpose of these components? Let us see. Let's see. So what are the additives? Each additive is added up to 2%. First one is the wood powder. Okay. If you might have seen a carpenter work, you might have seen that small wood particles are there at the portion where carpentry is being carried out. Very small. Along with the chips of the wood, small wooden powders are there. The purpose of using this wooden powder is to improve, wood powder is used to improve the collapsibility and porosity of the molding sand. Okay. Wood powder is used to improve the collapsibility and porosity of the molding sand. Now, please someone tell me what is collapsibility, what is porosity, and why are they needed in the molding sand? First, tell me about collapsibility, what it is and why is it needed? Yeah, very good. That is the one reason for having good collapsibility. Any other reason? Porosity is for air, escaping of gases. Very good, guys. Collapsibility, from the name itself you can understand. Collapse ability. Ability to collapse is called as collapsibility. As I told you, for bringing out the casted component, we break the mold. Okay, so if the collapsibility of the mold is good, it will be easy for us to break the mold, right? It will be easy for us to break the mold. Hence, collapsibility is needed. Hence, collapsibility is needed. Poor collapsibility may damage thin section of casting. Yeah, very good, Kumar. And porosity. Why the porosity is needed is, porosity is needed so that whatever the gases are formed, or if some air is present inside the cavity, these gases and the air can easily escape through the molding sand. That's why porosity is needed. Along with this, there is one more function of collapsibility. There is one more function of collapsibility. Again, I'll go back to the strength of material. In strength of material, you might have read something about thermal stress. You might have read thermal stress, right? So when a material expands or contracts, thermal strains are created. But these thermal strains are not always, because of these thermal strains, thermal stresses are generated. But these thermal stresses are not always generated. These are generated only in few cases. Which case is it generated? In which case is the thermal stress generated? In mechanical cases. Overall, you can say when the expansion or contraction is prevented. Whenever the free expansion and free contraction of a metal is prevented, in that cases thermal stresses are generated, right? In that cases thermal stresses are generated. So similarly, inside the casting, when the metal is trying to shrink, and if the molding sand is not allowing the metal to shrink, then there will be thermal stresses inside the metal. Okay, because of that, cracks may be formed. So the molding sand should be such that it allows the easy contraction of the casting. When will it allow the easy contraction? It will allow the contraction when the collapsibility is good. Right? Understood? If the collapsibility is not good, the free contraction will not be allowed. That will lead to thermal stresses. The thermal stresses will lead to crack formation. Any doubt in this point? Porosity once more. Okay. See. Let's suppose this is a cavity and here we have the molding sand. Okay. When we are pouring the molten metal, before molten metal some air was there. So that air will try to escape. From where will it escape? It will escape through the molding sand. If the porosity of the molding sand is not good, the air will not be able to escape through the cavity. It will get trapped inside the casting. Okay, and it will become a part of the casting. This is also a defect. Okay, Sunil, understood. Next is Saurav's doubt. In circular holes we have expansion. Yes, Saurav. It can be expansion or contraction. If the free expansion or free contraction is avoided, okay, it is hindered, then it will lead to generation of thermal stresses. Okay. Next is coal powder. The coal powder is used to improve the refractoriness of molding sand. Now, what is refractoriness? Refractoriness is the property to maintain the properties at high temperature. To retain the strength at high temperature is called as refractoriness. See, initially the mold will be at room temperature. But when you pour the molten metal inside the mold, its temperature will increase. Right? And because of increase in temperature, its strength may reduce. So we don't want that strength to reduce. So we want the strength even at high temperature. Hence, the property to retain the strength at higher temperature is called as refractoriness, and the refractoriness is given to the molding sand by using coal powder. And the third one is dextrine. The dextrine or starch, coal dust and silica flour used to improve surface finish also. First, Saurabh, by providing wood powder inside sand, it will provide more restrictions to the passage of gases. So how porosity is increasing? Saurabh, one way of thinking is the wood powder will maintain some gap between the sand particles. The wood powder, since it is very soft, there will be some gap left behind between the sand particles, and that way it will improve the porosity. Okay, wood powder will not take up all the space. It will maintain some gap between the sand particles, thus improving the porosity. Then Kumar wishes coal dust and silica flour used to improve surface finish also. Yeah. See, I told you we use something called as facing sand. Facing sand, I told you, was a carbon-rich material. Carbon-rich material means it was a combination of coal and sand. It is sprinkled inside the cavity to improve the surface finish of the casting. Okay, Kumar. Dextrine or starch are used to improve the strength of the molding sand. Okay, so you can expect direct questions. What kind of questions? What is the use of wood powder? What is the use of coal dust, coal powder? What is the use of dextrine? Or maybe they can give you all the three in the form of match the following, and this side they can give you the properties. On the other side they can give you the properties. Kumar is asking, sir, refractoriness once more. Kumar, refractoriness means the ability to maintain strength even at high temperature. And since the molten metal is having high temperature, when it gets poured inside the molding sand, the temperature of molding sand will increase. And if its refractoriness is not good, the strength of the molding sand will reduce. Hence, we want it to have higher strength even at higher temperature. Right? To give high strength at higher temperature, we want it to have good refractoriness. And for good refractoriness, we use the coal powder or the coal dust. Next is properties of molding sand. Properties of molding sand. In the previous topic, that is the topic by the name additives, we saw 4 properties. Please tell me those 4 properties quickly. Similarly, there are a few more properties that are needed in a molding sand. Those 4 properties, tell me the name. The 4 properties that we saw are porosity, collapsibility, then refractoriness and strength. Along with this, we have flowability and we have cohesion and adhesion. So let us see properties of molding sand. What are different properties of the molding sand? First one is the porosity. Okay, please write down in porosity. It is the ability of the sand to allow the gases or air to escape. Porosity is the property of the molding sand to allow the gases or air to escape. Now, how do we check the property of porosity? For measuring the porosity of a sand, we use something called as porosity number or permeability number. What is PN? So for this, we have an experimental setup. We have a cylinder. On this cylinder, we have a small hole. Above this hole, we keep the molding sand. Here, we keep the molding sand. Those properties we want to check. Let's suppose this is the molding sand whose properties we want to check. So here we'll keep air. We'll have air at pressure P. This pressure P is greater than the P atmospheric. This pressure P is greater than P atmospheric. Since this pressure P is greater than P atmospheric, it will try to escape through the molding sand, right? Since the pressure of the air is higher than the atmospheric pressure, it will try to escape, right? So this air will try to escape from here. And here we'll keep a pressure gauge. This side will keep a pressure gauge. And we'll keep monitoring the pressure. We'll keep monitoring the pressure. This is the pressure gauge. This is the molding sand. Then permeability number will be given as VH upon PAT. VH upon PAT. Here V is the volume of the air. V is the volume of air. H is the height of the molding sand. H is the height of the molding sand. P is the pressure of the air. P is the pressure of the air. A is the cross section area of the molding sand. A is the cross section area of the molding sand. And T is how much time it took. T is how much time it took for the pressure to reduce from P to P atmospheric. How much time it took for the pressure to reduce from P to P atmospheric. Okay. So H is the height of molding sand. H is the height of molding sand. Generally it is 2 inches. Generally it is 2 inches. 2 inches, if you write in terms of centimeter, you will get as 5.08 centimeter. A is cross section area of molding sand. Cross section area of molding sand. It is pi by 4 d square, where d is also 2 inches. Where d is also 2 inches, equal to 5.08 centimeter. D is also equal to 2 inches, which is equal to 5.08 centimeter. Okay. So H we know, A we know, V is volume of air. V is volume of air. It is generally 2000 cc. It is generally 2000 cc. P is initial pressure of air. Initial of air in gram per centimeter square. In gram per centimeter square. P is initial pressure of air in gram per centimeter square. And T is the time taken in minutes. T is the time taken in minutes for the pressure to reduce from P to P atmospheric. For the pressure to reduce from P to P atmospheric. Sir, area of molding sand means grain cross section area. No. Area of molding sand means the sample of the molding sand. Thus, cross section area sample of the molding sand through which we are allowing the gases to escape. Through which we are allowing the gases to escape. That is this cross section area. Danish, how can the grain have a diameter of 2 inch, right? The grain cannot have a diameter of 2 inch. Here I have mentioned the diameter is also 2 inches. I missed some part. Okay, no problem. Please copy this. Done? So porosity was the one property. Next property, let us see the strength. Again, there are two kinds of strength. One is the grain strength. Grain strength, as the name suggests, is the strength of green sand mold. The strength of green sand mold. Dry strength is the strength of dry sand mold. Is the strength of Green strength is the strength of green sand mold. Dry strength is the strength of dry sand mold. Okay. Next is cohesion. So this was the second property. The third property is, let's take adhesion as a third property. First of all, what is adhesion? And the second point is adhesion needed as a property of molding sand? Should there be good adhesion in the molding sand? Please tell. What do you understand by adhesion? And should the molding sand have good adhesion property? See, adhesion is the property to stick with dissimilar materials. Adhesion is the property to stick with dissimilar materials. For example, if you want to stick a paper to something else, you will be using something adhesive. For example, if you take the box of Fevicol, on the Fevicol box it is written an adhesive component. Hence, adhesion is a property to stick with dissimilar material. Is the property to stick with dissimilar material. Now I'll tell you. Even in cohesion, we'll see that adhesion is a property to stick with dissimilar material. Guys, you saw the molding flask. Sorry, I forgot the name. You saw the molding flask. Inside the molding flask, we made the mold, right? The molding flask is open from the top and the bottom. The molding flask is open from top and the bottom. So, if the adhesion property is good, the molding sand will stick to the molding flask. If the adhesive property is not good, as soon as you pick up the molding flask, all the molding sand will fall down from the molding flask. That's why adhesion is needed. Understood? It is needed. Otherwise, right? Adhesion is a property to stick with dissimilar material. It is needed for sticking of molding sand with the flask. Otherwise, the molding sand will fall when the flask is lifted. Is it right? Next is cohesion. The next property is cohesion. It is a property to stick with similar material. Cohesion is needed so that the molding sand are able to stick with each other. If the cohesion property is not good, the molding sand particles will not be able to stick with each other. Okay? Cohesion is needed so that the molding sand are able to stick with each other. Okay? Then we have refractoriness. The fifth property is, as I said, it is the property to retain the strength even at high temperature. This is refractoriness. Then we have collapsibility. It is the ability to collapse. Collapsibility is the ability to collapse. Yeah, that is one of the most important use of adhesion. It is the ability to collapse of molding sand. Okay. It is needed for easy removal of casting. Okay. So when I was teaching you the wood powder portion, I told you the good collapsibility is needed so that the metal is able to shrink or contract freely. Or expand freely. If it is not allowed, some stresses will be generated, and because of those stresses, cracks will be formed. Those cracks are called as hot tears. Okay. So, When we study the casting defects, again we'll see what is hot tears. As of now, just write the name. When we see casting defects, we'll write the definition hot tears. Then Saurav is asking, sir, which type of strength we are concerned in refractoriness? The green strength and dry strength, both the strengths we are concerned about in refractoriness. Okay. Crushing, tensile, etc. are of no concern. Achha, this strength you are talking about, the crushing, tensile, etc. Mostly we'll look for tensile strength. Because some expansion will be taking place. It can be both, like crushing and tensile. What happens is, when the temperature increases for any component, its ductility improves. Right? Its hardness reduces. So overall, nearly all the strength we will be concerned about. It will depend upon the shape of the casting. Depending on different shape of the casting, different kind of stresses will be acting on the molding sand. Okay. We can't always say that always crushing strength will be acting, always crushing stress will be acting, always tensile stress will be acting. Okay. It will depend upon the shape of the casting. And the seventh is flowability. For measuring how good a liquid can flow, we use a property called as fluidity. Right? If the fluidity is good, the fluid can flow easily. But the molding sand is a solid. Hence, we don't use the term fluidity, we use the term flowability. It is the ability of the molding sand to flow under the ramming force. We apply a ramming force, right? You remember? We apply a ramming force, and because of the ramming force, the molding sand takes up the space inside the flask. So, it is the ability of the molding sand to flow inside the flask under the ramming force of the molding sand. It is the ability of the molding sand to flow inside the flask under the ramming force. Okay. So these are the properties that are needed in the molding sand. Once we have understood what are the properties needed in the molding sand, what are the constituents of the molding sand, now let us have a look how the mold is made. In the two videos that we saw, in both the videos the ramming forces were being applied by the hand. Right? If you remember, in both the videos the ramming forces were being applied by the hand. So the mold making can be classified on the basis of how the ramming force has been applied. If the ramming force has been applied by the hands, it is called as hand molding, and if the ramming force has been applied by the machine, it is called as machine molding. Okay. So next is methods of mold making. So in the methods of mold making, write down. On the basis of application of the ramming force, mold making can be classified as hand molding and machine molding. Okay. Hand molding and machine molding. Entire manufacturing, in fact, entire mechanical engineering, by having a look at the name, you can understand what is going on. For example, here I have written hand molding. Earlier I had written collapsibility, refractoriness. All this, just by looking at the name, you can understand. Okay. So my recommendation is, whenever you are studying any subject, when you look at the name, just try to create a mental image. For example, if I say hand molding, and I have already told that classification is on the basis of the ramming force. On the basis of classification of the ramming force, the name is hand molding. It means most probably the ramming force might be applied by the hand. So like this way you have to create a mental image. Okay, this is a very theoretical subject. You have to remember lots of theories. So if you create a mental image, then it will be easier for you to remember. Okay, create a mental image, then verify it with my definition, whether my definition is matching your imagination. If both of them are matching, very good. If they are not matching, then most probably you made some mistake, and mostly we remember our mistakes. Whatever mistake we make, we tend to remember them for longer duration, right? So this way of studying manufacturing is very, very effective. So my recommendation is always to go by that way. Okay. Let us come back to hand molding. First of all, it is hand molding, right? Hand, it means human hands. There are nearly 1.3 billion people in India. So labor is very, very cheap, right? So hand molding is very cheap. Hand molding is very cheap as no machine is required. And since the ramming force is applied by the hand, the person who is applying the load, he knows that where the pattern is weak, where the pattern is strong. So he can vary the ramming force. And by varying the ramming force, he can make complicated shapes. Labor in our city charges 800 rupees per day and maestri 1200. And that is for per day. If you employ him for 1 month, he will charge less. Okay, Danish? Very cheap as no machine is required. 800 per day, most mechanical engineers are not earning. Okay. Very cheap as machine is required. Complicated shapes can be produced. And the third one is productivity will be low. A human cannot produce large number of molds. He will take time, right? He or she will take time. Hence, it is time consuming and productivity is low. Time consuming. Okay, guys, leave it. Next is machine molding. Second one is machine molding. Now the machine molding can be classified into different types. First one is jolting. Jolting means applying impact load. In Hindi, if you say jolting means jhatka dena. Okay, jhatka. So, what happens in jolting? Let's suppose you want to pack something inside a box. So, for better packing, what you do sometimes is you lift the box and you allow it to fall. Like this. Right? Same thing happens in case of sand molding. What we'll do is we'll take a flask that is filled with sand. Here we have pattern. We will raise it to a certain height. And then we'll allow it to fall. When it falls, first of all, when it is raised, its potential energy is increased. Okay. When it falls, at this location, impact energy acts. And because of the impact energy, the packing of sand takes place. I have not seen the movie. Okay. Yeah, density variation will be there. Very good, Danish. Since the impact load is applied by the lower surface, at the lower surface will have high density, and at the upper surface will have low density. Okay, So this thing has never been asked in the GATE, but in NPTEL. In NPTEL assignment, they had asked by jolting we'll get higher density in the lower portion or in the upper portion. Which portion? In NPTEL assignment they had asked by jolting process we'll get higher density in the lower portion or upper portion. In the lower portion, right? This portion is nothing but the parting line. This portion is nothing but the parting line. So write down about jolting, write down. In jolting, a sand-filled mold, in jolting, a sand-filled mold is raised to a certain height, In jolting, a sand-filled mold is raised to a certain height, and it is allowed to fall freely, Hence the potential energy gets converted into impact energy. And the packing of sand takes place. Even I don't remember the lines. Okay, I'll try to repeat. In jolting, a sand-filled mold is raised to a certain height, and then it is allowed to fall freely, Because of this, the potential energy gets converted into impact energy. And packing of sand takes place. In this we get higher density. Near the parting line. And lower density. Near the parting line, and lower density away from the parting line. Okay. Lower density away from the parting line. Next is squeezing. So what happens in squeezing? Again we'll take a sand-filled mold. And we'll apply the load from the top. This time we'll use some hydraulic press and we'll apply load from the top. This is called as squeezing. And since this time we are applying the load from the top, we'll get higher density in the top portion. And lesser density near the parting line. Okay. So write down. In squeezing, the sand-filled mold is compressed from the top. Sand-filled mold is compressed from the top by using a hydraulic press. Here we get lesser density. Near the parting line, and higher density away from the parting line. In squeezing, the sand-filled mold is compressed by using a hydraulic press. Here we get higher density we get lower density near the parting line and higher density away from the parting line. Okay.